When I first bought the house, the pool was what sold me. Not the granite countertops, not the three-car garage, not even the quiet cul-de-sac. It was that sparkling blue rectangle of water in the backyard. It glistened under the sunlight like a sheet of glass, promising lazy summer afternoons, barbecues with friends, and quiet nights where I could float and stare at the stars. It was my sanctuary. My retreat from a world that always seemed too loud, too demanding, too crowded. At least, that's what I thought when I moved in. What I didn't know, what no realtor brochure ever mentioned, was that my sanctuary came with a built-in problem. Her name was Karen. Now, I didn't know her right away. Not until the second week, when I looked out my kitchen window one morning and saw something strange. There she was, shoulder-length blonde hair tied up in a bun, oversized sunglasses perched on her face, and a floppy sun hat discarded on one of my lounge chairs. She was swimming in my pool. At first, I thought I was imagining things. I mean, who just climbs over someone else's fence and takes a dip? But no, she was really there. She wasn't sneaking, either. She was leisurely paddling across the deep end, as if she owned the place. I marched outside, my slippers slapping against the stone patio, and cleared my throat. "Excuse me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" She didn't even look embarrassed. She just pushed her sunglasses up, blinked at me as if I was interrupting her, and said, "Oh, hi. You must be the new owner. I'm Karen, from the HOA board. This pool is just perfect. The old owners used to let me use it all the time." I stared at her. "That's great, but I'm not the old owner. This is my private pool. You can't just—" "Oh, don't worry," she interrupted, waving one hand dismissively while she backstroked. "It's part of the community spirit. I practically live right next door, and besides, the HOA takes care of everything around here. You'll get used to it." "Get used to it?" She said it like she was doing me a favor. I should have thrown her out right then. I should have made it crystal clear that my backyard was not the HOA's communal playground. But I was still new to the neighborhood, still trying to make a good impression. So, instead, I just crossed my arms and said, "Well, next time, maybe ask first." She gave me a wide, plastic smile. "Of course. Next time." But here's the thing, there was a next time. And a time after that. And after that. Every other morning, I'd look out the window and see her there, sometimes alone, sometimes with a friend, sometimes with her teenage daughter splashing around. She'd use my chairs, drink lemonade she brought from home, even play music on a little Bluetooth speaker. And every time I confronted her, it was the same routine. She'd laugh it off, insist it was harmless, and remind me that the HOA encouraged neighbors to share resources. I wasn't just annoyed, I was furious. I'd bought this home specifically for privacy. For freedom. And now here I was, trapped by the very organization that was supposed to protect homeowners. The worst part? The other neighbors didn't seem to care. In fact, they acted like I was the unreasonable one. "Karen's harmless," one of them told me. "She's just enthusiastic. She likes feeling like part of the community." Part of the community. She was invading my property. My sanctuary. I decided to take it up with the HOA directly. After all, they had rules, pages and pages of rules about everything from the color of your shutters to how tall your grass could grow. Surely they'd take my side. So I went to the next HOA meeting. The fluorescent-lit room smelled like stale coffee, and the folding chairs squeaked whenever someone shifted. Karen was sitting at the front table, of course, her arms crossed, her smile smug. When it was my turn to speak, I stood and cleared my throat. I'd like to address an issue regarding my property. Specifically, unauthorized use of my pool. A murmur went through the room. Karen tilted her head, feigning innocence. Oh, you mean our community pool? I clenched my fists. No. My private pool. In my backyard. Which certain individuals have been trespassing in. The room went quiet. For a moment, I thought I had them. Surely they couldn't argue with that. But then Karen spoke again, her voice sweet as honey. Oh, we all know you're new here, so let me explain. The old owners were very generous. They understood that being part of this neighborhood means sharing. The HOA has always allowed me access, and it's been that way for years. It's practically tradition. Tradition? My jaw dropped. Since when does tradition override property rights? The president of the HOA, a balding man in a too-tight polo shirt, adjusted his glasses and said, "Well, Karen does have a point. It's always been this way. Maybe you can find a compromise." A compromise? They were siding with her. That's when I realized the truth. The HOA wasn't going to help me. In fact, they were going to protect her. Because Karen wasn't just another neighbor, she was one of them. And if I wanted her out of my pool, I was going to have to handle it myself. That night, as I sat by the water, watching the ripples dance under the moonlight, a thought began to form. If Karen wanted to treat my pool like her personal oasis, maybe it was time to show her just how unwelcome she really was. I didn't know the details yet. But one thing was certain, I was done playing nice. The morning after the HOA meeting, I woke up with a bitter taste in my mouth. I had gone in there expecting fairness, rules, maybe even justice. Instead, I walked out feeling like I was the one on trial. Karen had twisted everything, like she always did. She'd made it sound as though I was selfish, uptight, unwilling to embrace the community. And the others? They nodded along, smiling at her like she was some benevolent queen instead of what she really was, a bully with a smile and a clipboard. Still, I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe things would calm down. Maybe Karen, having seen my frustration, would back off. I was wrong. 2 days later, I came home from work early. The sun was still high, casting long golden beams across my lawn. I pushed open my back gate, and what I saw nearly made me drop my briefcase. Karen was there again, but this time, she wasn't alone. She'd brought company. 2 women lounged on my chairs, sipping iced tea and laughing like they were at a country club. A Bluetooth speaker blasted pop music across the yard. Karen herself floated in the pool on an inflatable swan, sipping something from a stainless steel tumbler. The audacity of it hit me like a punch. Not only was she trespassing again, but she had the nerve to host a pool party in my backyard. What the hell is this? I shouted, storming forward. Karen pushed her sunglasses up her nose and gave me that same infuriating smile. Oh, relax. We're just enjoying the sunshine. You've got such a beautiful pool, it's a shame to keep it all to yourself. One of her friends actually had the gall to laugh. Yeah, you should be grateful, neighbor. We're putting it to good use. I could feel the blood pounding in my ears. You're trespassing. All of you. Pack up and leave. Now. Karen rolled her eyes. There's no need to be so hostile. The HOA is fine with this. If you've got a problem, take it up with them. I already did, I snapped. And, she asked sweetly, as if daring me to admit my failure. I clenched my fists. And they'll hear from me again. But in the meantime, get out of my pool before I call the police. For a moment, I thought I'd finally gotten through to her. She stared at me, her smile flickering just slightly. Then she laughed. A short, sharp laugh that cut through the music. "The police," she said. "Good luck. You think they care about some silly pool dispute? This is HOA property. Community property. You won't win." My jaw tightened. "This is my property. And this is the last warning you'll get." Her friends muttered under their breath, but eventually, they gathered their things. Karen climbed out of the pool slowly, deliberately dripping water on the stone patio, as if marking her territory. Before she left, she leaned close, her voice low enough that only I could hear. "You're new here. You don't know how things work. But you'll learn. One way or another." Then she left, strutting through the gate like she owned the place. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in my head. One way or another. It wasn't just arrogance anymore. It was a threat. I started keeping track. Every time Karen came over, I wrote it down, dates, times, who she brought with her. And she came often. Sometimes in the mornings, sometimes in the afternoons, sometimes when I wasn't even home. My neighbors started dropping little comments, too. "Karen says thanks for letting her daughter swim yesterday. I didn't know you hosted pool days. What a nice gesture. Pool days. Hosted." She was spreading rumors, making it sound like I'd invited her. She was turning the whole neighborhood against me. I installed cameras around my backyard, hidden but precise. And what I saw made my stomach churn. Karen wasn't just swimming, she was treating my property like her personal spa. She'd set out towels, brought drinks, sometimes even had food delivered to my front door, which she'd carry around back as if it was her own. It wasn't just an invasion anymore. It was a takeover. I tried talking to the HOA again, but the response was the same. Shrugs. Smiles. A reminder that Karen was a valued board member, who had always had access. One of them even had the audacity to suggest, why not work something out? Maybe set visiting hours. Visiting hours. For my own pool. That's when the rage turned into something sharper. Something colder. I realized I couldn't rely on anyone else to solve this. Not the HOA. Not the neighbors. Not the police, who'd likely roll their eyes at a neighbor dispute and tell me to work it out myself. If I wanted Karen out, I'd have to do it on my own terms. So I started thinking. Planning. Karen had her routine. Same mornings, same afternoons, same smug smile as she strutted into my yard like it was her birthright. And if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that routines can be used against people. I didn't know exactly what the plan would be yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I was done being the victim. Karen thought she'd won, that she could bully me into submission. But she didn't know me. She didn't know how far I was willing to go to protect what was mine. And soon, she was going to find out. For weeks, Karen strutted around like she owned my backyard. She came and went as she pleased, sometimes waving at me through the kitchen window as if daring me to confront her again. But I didn't confront her. Not directly. Not anymore. Instead, I watched. I learned. Every intruder has patterns, and Karen was no exception. She preferred mornings on weekdays, when most people were at work. She usually stayed for about an hour, sometimes longer if she brought her daughter or one of her friends. She always left through the side gate, and she always helped herself to whatever she wanted, chairs, tables, even my sunscreen. At first, watching those cameras filled me with anger. But after a while, that anger hardened into something else, calculation. Karen thought she was untouchable, because the HOA was on her side. She believed no one could stop her. That arrogance was her weakness. And I was going to use it. I started with the small things. Subtle adjustments she wouldn't notice right away. I swapped the chlorine balance in the pool just slightly, making it stronger than usual. Not enough to be unsafe, at least not for me, but enough to dry out her skin and sting her eyes if she stayed too long. A week later, she was still swimming, though I noticed her constantly rubbing her arms and blinking against the sting. She didn't blame me, of course. She just grumbled to one of her friends that the new guy doesn't know how to maintain a pool like the old owners did. Perfect. Let her think I was incompetent. The more she underestimated me, the better. Next, I set up an audio system, small, hidden speakers tucked under the deck. Nothing too fancy. But I programmed them to turn on at specific times with loud, unsettling noises. Growling dogs. Sudden static. Even the faint sound of a man's voice whispering her name. The first time it happened, I watched through the cameras as she whipped around in the water, eyes wide, looking for the source. Her daughter got spooked and climbed out, refusing to get back in. Karen, of course, tried to laugh it off. But I saw her leave earlier than usual that day. Good. The seeds of discomfort were planted. But that wasn't the real plan. That was just the warm-up. The real plan took a bit more effort. See, Karen had one fatal flaw: she couldn't resist showing off. She loved telling the other neighbors how much fun she had in her pool. She posted pictures on the community Facebook page, photos of her lounging on my chairs, sipping drinks by my water. She bragged about it at HOA meetings, all but daring me to object. So, I decided to use her vanity against her. I reached out to an old friend, Mark, who ran a small, but very effective private security company. He owed me a favor from years back, and he was more than happy to help. Together, we set up a little surprise for Karen. Motion sensors along the fence. Silent alarms triggered by movement. And, most importantly, a set of high-resolution cameras linked to a live feed that Mark could access instantly. The goal wasn't just to catch her trespassing, it was to catch her red-handed, with undeniable evidence, and in a way that would leave her no wiggle room to twist the story. But I didn't stop there. I added one final touch. A little gadget Mark loaned me called a remote lock. Basically, it was a simple mechanism that could bolt the gate shut electronically with the push of a button. Once inside, Karen wouldn't be able to leave unless I, or Mark, released it. I didn't intend to hurt her. But I wanted her trapped. Cornered. Forced to face the consequences of her arrogance. And sure enough, the perfect opportunity came one sunny Saturday morning. Karen waltzed in through the side gate like she always did, tossing her towel on my chair and slipping into the pool with a sigh of satisfaction. She was alone this time, humming to herself as she floated on her back. I sat inside, watching through the cameras, my finger hovering over the button. Not yet, I told myself. Timing was everything. She swam a few laps, checked her phone, then pulled out that same stainless steel tumbler she always carried. She was completely at ease, utterly convinced she was untouchable. That's when I pressed the button. I heard the faint click as the gate locked shut. Karen, of course, didn't notice. Not yet. But she would. Because today was the day she'd learn that this pool, my pool, wasn't hers to claim. And by the time I was finished, even the HOA wouldn't be able to save her. Karen floated lazily in the water, humming to herself, completely oblivious to the fact that her little kingdom had just been sealed shut. I waited. Patience was key. After about 15 minutes, she climbed out of the pool and walked toward the side gate, dripping water across my patio like breadcrumbs. She reached for the latch. Pulled once. Twice. then frowned. She jiggled it harder. Nothing. Her head snapped toward the house. I watched through the blinds as her smile faltered for the first time since I'd moved in. "Hello," she called. "Hey, I think your gate's jammed." I didn't answer. She tried again, her voice rising just slightly. "It's stuck. Can you come open this?" Still nothing. That's when the confidence started to slip. She glanced around, the way someone does when they realize they're not in control anymore. She even tried climbing the fence, but the slick water on her hands and the height of the boards made it impossible. Finally, she stormed up to my back door and pounded on the glass. "Okay, joke's over. Let me out. Now." I opened the door slowly, letting the silence stretch. "Funny," I said evenly. "You didn't seem to have any trouble letting yourself in." Her face flushed red. "Don't play games with me. This is harassment. I'll have the HOA on you so fast." I held up my phone, showing her the live feed from the security cameras. One clear image filled the screen: Karen, slipping through my gate with her towel over her shoulder, climbing into my pool like she owned it. Her mouth snapped shut. "Oh, and these," I added, swiping through dozens of clips. "Every time you've trespassed for the past month. Every photo you posted online. Every party you threw in my backyard. All time-stamped. All backed up." Her eyes darted from the screen to me. You can't use that. That's evidence," I cut in. "Undeniable evidence. So here's what's going to happen, Karen. You're going to stop. No more swimming. No more trespassing. You stay out of my yard, and I won't press charges." For a second, she actually looked rattled. But then her chin lifted, that smug arrogance creeping back. "You think the police will side with you over the HOA? Please. I'm on the board. I have connections. I'll tell them you invited me." I smirked. "Already thought of that. Which is why I also have recordings of you admitting it's community property, and not mine. Clear proof you knew exactly what you were doing." Her face drained of color. "And," I added, leaning closer, "I have a friend who happens to specialize in private security. If I wanted, I could have him forward this entire file to the police, the county property office, and every neighbor in this subdivision. Do you really want them to see how you've been lying? How you've been exploiting the HOA to bully homeowners?" Her lips trembled, just for a moment. Then she did something I didn't expect. She tried to laugh. "You wouldn't dare." That was the moment I pressed another button on my phone. From the speakers I'd hidden under the deck, her own voice echoed back, recordings I'd spliced together. Her bragging at poolside, her telling her friends, "The new guy can't stop me. The HOA's on my side. This pool is basically mine." The words bounced across the backyard like ghosts. And judging by the look on her face, they hit harder than any threat I could have made. I let the silence stretch before speaking again. "Try me." Karen stood frozen, her confidence finally cracked. For the first time, I saw it, the fear. Not just fear of me, but of losing her image, her little kingdom of control. Finally, she muttered, "Fine." "Fine what?" I pressed. "Fine. I'll stay out," she spat, her voice bitter. I unlocked the gate with a tap, and the click made her flinch. She grabbed her towel, yanked the gate open, and stormed out without another word. But the story didn't end there. The next HOA meeting was different. Karen still showed up, of course, but she kept her mouth shut. She avoided my eyes. She didn't mention the pool, didn't bring up community spirit. And when one of the other board members asked why she was so quiet, she just forced a smile and changed the subject. Word spread, of course. Not because I told anyone, but because Karen suddenly stopped bragging. She stopped posting pictures. She stopped acting like queen of the neighborhood. And people noticed. As for me, my backyard was mine again. My sanctuary restored. Every time I sat by the pool, watching the water shimmer in the sunlight, I felt a quiet satisfaction. Not just because I'd won, but because I'd proven a point. Bullies like Karen thrive when people roll over. When they let fear or appearances dictate their actions. But me. I refused to roll over. I didn't just take back my pool. I took back my power. And deep down, I knew Karen would never cross me again. Not after that night.